先仰望星空 then reading and writing。今天我们继续 Professional Cooking for Canadian Chefs， 然后我们现在是第4章 Chapter4。然后我们昨天学了这个 measurement 里边就是最重要的一点，它就讲了这个英制和这个或者叫美制和这个国际标准就是单位制的这个区别。然后后边他会讲这个，今天我们就看它转换，然后怎么计算，还有怎么控制它，有一些概念。这3部分我们今天争取一次都讲完，因为它涉及到很多这个计算。首先要说这个计算实际上比较简单，只要你理解了它这个转换关系就行了。跟我们常见的这个十进制不一样呢，就是美制的这个转换它涉及到一些特殊的进制，比如说8、16啊之类的。那我们就开始今天的录制。Converting recipes. Unless you are working in an operation that uses only its own standardized recipe, you will frequently be required to increase or decrease recipe to different quantities. Each recipe is designed to make a specific amount of finished product. This amount is called the yield. For example, you may have a recipe for 50 portions of sweet steak, but need only 25 portions. You need to change the yield of your recipe. This is called converting the recipe. 所以说这里面这个概念我们知道 converting the recipe 主要就是指从这个标准或者说已知的这个 recipe 转化成你需要的这个数量。比如说标准的话，它是做1碗面条，那你今天要有3个人，你要吃3碗面条，所以就转换一下，就是这个意思。Converting recipe is an important technique. It is a skill you will probably need to use many times in this book. This is no best yield to write recipe for, as every operation, every school, and every individual has different needs. 然后我们看它这个小例子啊 ，changing to common units. Before we start converting recipe use, we must deal with one more problem with our measuring system. As explained earlier, the US system of measurement has many units that simply must be memorized. 16 ounces in a pound, 2 cups in a pint, 4 quarters in a gallon, and so on. When you are converting recipes, you often have to change back and forth between large and small units to get measurements you can work with. In most cases, the easiest way to make the calculation is to change larger units to smaller units. To change pounds to ounce, multiply by 16. To change cups to fluid ounces, multiply by 8. To change pints to fluid ounces, multiply by 16. To change quarts to fluid ounces, multiply by 32. After you have finished converting the recipe, you usually must convert the ounces and fluid ounces back to larger units in order to get units that are easy to work with. To do this, divide the same numbers you needed to multiply in the previous calculations. For example, to change ounces back to pounds, divide by 16. If you divide by hand, you often get a remainder. Leave this remainder in the smaller unit. For example, change 60 ounces to pounds. 60 divided 16 equals 3 with a remainder of 12. So 60 ounces equals 3 pounds and 12 ounces. If you are using a calculator, you often get a decimal. In order to change the numbers to the right of the decimal point to ounces, you have to again multiply this decimal portion by 16. Either way, you end up with the same answer. 因为在厨房里面它会有一些这个工具，它标的是按盎司或者按那个磅来标它的这个刻度，所以的话，如果你要比如说 3.75 磅，实际上不如3磅12盎司在那个刻度上更明显，更方便读。Yields. Recipe yields are expressed in several ways. For example, as a total quantity, as a total number of portions, as a total number of portions of a specified size. Most recipe conversions require changing the total quantity or the total number of portions. The math for doing both of these is the same. As long as the portion size stays the same, you can use either the total quantity or the total number of portions as the yield when you make your calculations. A little later in the discussion, after you are familiar with solving those problems, we discuss how to change both the number of portions and the portion size when converting recipes. Conversion factors. Nearly everyone instinctively can double a recipe or cut it in half. It seems more complicated though to change a recipe from 10 to 18 portions, say, or from 50 to 35. Actually, the principle is exactly same. You find a number called a conversion factor and then multiply every quantity by this number. The conversion factor can be defined as the number used to increase or decrease each ingredient when converting a recipe to a different yield. The first step in converting recipe is to calculate the conversion factor. So, 这个里边我们看一个这个 conversion factor 这个定义，就是你的新的这个出品量比上你这个旧的出品量，就是你出几倍或者几分之几，这有一个叫 conversion factor， 就叫转化的一个因子吧。然后呢，你用这个因子乘以每一个单独的材料就可以了。这个例子我们就不读了，因为这个非常好理解。这两个部分我都不读了，因为这个的话，我觉得你会一个基本的数学，让你了解这个概念之后就可以了。我们读一下它的结论。In order to make this procedure clear, let's walk through the conversion of a full recipe to give you practice in the question. The following examples are in US system of measures. For metric examples, see another page. In the sample recipe that follows are the ingredients and quantities for a sautéed beef dish. As you can see, the quantities indicated are enough to make 8 portions each. So this is the beef tenderloin tips and mushrooms la creme. Portion 8, portion size 8 ounce. Let's say we need 18 portions instead of 8. To find the conversion factor, we divide the new yield by old. So it's 2.25 times than the old yield. So every ingredient will time 2.25. First, to make this easier, we should change pounds to ounce and cups, pints and quarts to fluid ounces using figures in table 4.2. This is called converting to common units of measures. As explained earlier, for example, to change the measurement from beef tenderloin to ounces, multiply 2.5 by 16 to get 40 ounces. 这里边的意思就是说，因为这里边我们有一些 ounce 啊，还有一些 pound，你如果都转换同样的单位，可能会更方便一点。但是你如果最后转换也行，所以，对于我来说没什么区别。The equivalent we need for this recipe are as follow: half pound equal 8 ounce, 2.5 ounce equal 40 ounce, blah blah blah. In example 1, we have substituted this equivalent quantities, then we have multiplied all the ingredient quantities by the conversion factor to get the quantity we need for 18 portions. Check through all the calculations to make sure you follow them. The quantities for salt and pepper will still, of course, be indicated as to taste. 所以这点我们注意2点啊，我想说2点。第一个是他这边说的很重要，就是说你盐啊、胡椒啊这些调料的话，都要去尝 to taste， 特别是盐啊，你觉得合适就合适了，而且它的量比较小，你也没必要去算。你除非比如说这里边是18是18个单位， 你如果要做500份饭，那你这盐的量你可以自动控制一下，对吧？乘一下算一下多少，或者更多的话，或者说在工厂你或者说是加工中心、食品中心，那你有可能去弄一下。剩下的如果你放在一个大锅里，你看这个成品的话，你直接尝一尝是最靠谱的方法。然后另外的话，我刚才想说另外一个关键就是说，这个东西你实在不会算，那也没有办法，你必须得会算。为什么这么说？就是如果你自己开一个餐厅，或者是你在一个地方工作，这个东西涉及到那个钱，涉及到成本。你如果成本有问题的话，那你就亏钱了，对吧？那你是愿意亏钱呢，还是愿意把这个东西学会去算好呢？或者从另外一个角度看，我在这儿经常会发现，在加拿大的话，它这个劳动法规定的非常细，你上多长时间的班给多长时间的钱，就是按小时计嘛。然后呢，你加班呢是有不同的加班费，然后呢，你的假期的所有的这个工资都不一样，它都有一个标准。那你要想了解清楚呢，那你就认真去了解，问别人啊，或者去查这个法律。那你要是不想了解呢，或者不想弄这个时间呢，那到时候你拿多少，别人给多少你就拿多少，对吧？就也不要太抱怨。Now let's suppose we want to find the quantity need to give us 40 portions, 6 ounces each. Because the portion size changes, we have to add extra steps to our procedure for calculating the conversion factor. The procedure for calculating conversion factors when portion size changes explains these steps. Then we use this new conversion factor in the same way as we did in example 1 above. For our beef tenderloin tips recipe, we first calculate our new conversion factor, which is 60 ounces. Do the same calculation for desired yield, which is 240 ounces. When we divide the new by the old, we arrive at a conversion factor of 3.75. The new calculations use the conversion factor of 3.75 are shown in the example. 这个地方它又给这个例子 procedure for converting factor when person size changes。这个地方就是说，如果你真的比如说没有接触过，或者是可能没什么经验啊，或者年龄比较小啊，那你就认真读一下，把这个学会。然后如果你接触过一些最基本的这个 business 啊，商业的，比如说换钱啊或者之类的买卖啊这些，你这个是非常简单的了。所以这玩意儿我就不读了。这基本就是数学和一些应用。然后我们看一下这个它的总结还是后边啊 ，problems 这个我们要了解啊 ，problems in converting recipes. For the most part, these conversion procedures work well, but when you make some very large conversions from 10 to 400 portions, for example, or from 500 to 6, you may encounter problems. For example, you may have to make major equipment changes like from a 2-quart sauce pot to a larger steam kettle. Consequently, you have to adjust your techniques and sometimes even ingredients. Evaporation rates may be different. Thickening agent may need increasing or decreasing. Seasonings and spices may have to be cut back. Sometimes quantities are too large or too small to mix properly. This is one more example of the importance of cooking with judgment. 看这里他就提到了 cooking with judgment， 一定要自己有这个判断，要用舌头去尝，我想做出一个怎么样的好吃的，对吧？ Experienced chefs develop a feel for these problems over the years. When you make such adjustments on converted recipes, be sure to make a note of them for future reference. 这里边就说了一个你要记笔记啊，就是我最开始实习的时候记的笔记记得特别细。我尽量把每一个点都记下来，然后我还会经常复习。我在那个坐地铁的时候，大部分时间都用来复习这个笔记。然后呢，我保证我确定我记下来了，是我养成我一个习惯之后，我就把这个笔记这些删掉。我就知道了，这个事我知道了，我不用想，或者我不用刻意去记，这本身就是我生活工作中的一部分，那我就把这个页删掉。 所以说开始的时候我都是会记得很细，然后慢慢我删掉，到现在我那个笔记本也不是很好，所以说大家一定要记住那个关键那个东西，然后自己总结，找到自己的方法，然后怎么说呢，化繁为简吧。Although there are no fixed rules you can learn from these adjustments, it is possible to list the most common types of problems encountered, so you can be on the alert for them when making recipe conversions. In general, most of the pitfalls fall into one of the following categories. Measuring. This is most often a problem when you are expanding small recipes, such as when you want to take a consumer recipe for 4 portions and adapt it to a high-volume operation such as a large cafeteria. Many such recipes use volume measure for both solids and liquids. As we explained earlier, volume measurement of solids is inaccurate. Of course, small inaccuracy become large one when a recipe is multiplied. Therefore, it is important to be cautious and to test carefully when you are converting a recipe that uses volume measures for solid ingredients. Problems also occur in the opposite situation. When converting a large quantity recipe to a much smaller yield, this is a typical problem when adapting a quantity recipe to single portion size for a la carte service. Some quantities in the converted recipe may be so small as to be difficult to measure. These problems usually can be avoided when all solids are measured by weight. But such items as spices and seasonings may be too small to be measured easily by weight, unless you use a scale that is accurate to a tiny fraction of an ounce. For this reason, it is usually a good idea to cut back on spices and salt in a converted recipe. You can always add more if you taste the product and decide it needs more seasoning. 所以说这个里面他给了一个很好的建议，就是说你如果从这个大的菜谱转到这个小菜谱的时候，你先把这个盐多减一些，然后你如果觉得盐味不够呢，你再加，直到合适为止。你别一次把盐加多了，这样你后来就不好改了，对吧？我可能有1-2次吧，不是在公司，好像还是在家，都有过这种经历，就是我盐加多了，这个东西真的特别不好改。你可能要，第一个有可能要扩大那个量，如果你不想浪费的话，会把那个原来你需要的量增加，比如说翻倍，然后才能淡化这个盐的味道，或者就是你把你已经做好的这个成品扔掉一半，然后再稀释，就是扔掉一半去稀释，然后再加你的其他的料，反正就会造成浪费，反正就是很麻烦的一个事儿吧，千万不要加多了盐。Surface and volume. If you have studied geometry, you may remember that a cube with a volume of 1 cubic foot has a top surface area of 1 square foot. But if you double the volume of the cube, the top surface area is not double, but is in fact only about 1.5 times as large. 这个里边他又说了一个这个表面积和体积的这个问题。What in the world, you ask, does this have to do with cooking? Consider the following example. 那我们看它这个 example， 它例子怎么给的 ？Suppose you have a good recipe for a half-gallon cream soup, which you normally make a small soup pot. You want to make 16 ounces of the soup, so you multiply all the ingredients by a conversion factor of 32 and make the soup in the steam kettle. To your surprise, not only do you end up with more soup than you expected, but also it turns out rather thin and watery. What happened? Your converted recipe has 32 times as much volume to start, but the amount of surface area has not increased nearly as much. Because the ratio of surface area to volume is less, there is less evaporation. This means there is less reduction and less thickening, and the flavor are not as concentrated. To correct this problem, you would have to use less stock, and preferably a stock that is more concentrated. 这个他给的例子就是想象是这样，但实际上你在做汤的时候你都得尝啊，对吧？你尝加时间长一点，水蒸发多一点就可以了。Suppose instead that you made the expanded recipe in a tilting skillet. In this case, there's so much surface area that the liquid would evaporate very quickly, resulting in an overly thickened and overly seasoned soup. Differences in surface area and volume can cause other problems as well. Food service operations must be more careful than home cooks do about food spoilage and the food danger zone, because large volumes of food cool and heat much more slowly than small volumes do. For the same reason, a home baker worries about keeping a bread dough warm so it will ferment, but a commercial baker worries about keeping a dough cool enough so it does ferment too fast. This is because a large batch of dough has so much volume in comparison with its surface area that it tends to retain heat rather than cool quickly to room temperature. Equipment. When you change the size of the recipe, you must often change the equipment too. This change often measures the recipe does not work in the same way. Cooks must be able to use their judgment to anticipate these problems and to modify their procedures to avoid them. The example just given, of course, of cooking a large batch of soup in a steam kettle or in a tilting skillet is among the kinds of problems that can arise when you change cooking utensils. Other problems developed because of mixers or other processing equipment. For example, if you break down a salad dressings recipe to make only a small quantity, you might find there is so little liquid in the mixing machine that the beaters don't blend the ingredients properly. Or you might have a recipe for a muffin batter. You usually make it in small quantities and mix by hand. When you increase the recipe greatly, you find you have too much to do by hand. Therefore, you use a mixer but keep the mixing time the same. Because the mixer does the job so efficiently, you overmix the batter and end up with poor quality muffins. 这地方他说这个举的例子也不是特别合适，因为你最后你如果用 mixer 去搅拌的那种电动搅拌机去和面或者搅拌的话，你也是要观察它那个搅拌的程度，对吧？你不可能说明显看着很稀，然后你还是做同样的这个 muffin 啊，对吗？而且你加原料都是一次一次加的，加面粉，然后加一点水，对吧？保证它是达到你应有的那个粘稠度。Many mixing and stirring jobs can be done only by hand. This is easy with small quantity, but it's difficult with large batches. The result is often an inferior product. In contrast, some handmade products are better if they are done in large batches. It is hard, for example, to make a very small batch of puff pastry because the dough cannot be rolled and folded properly. 我们再看一下下一个 time. Next is time. Some people make the mistakes of thinking that if you double a recipe, you must also double the cooking time. That is an error can be shown by a simple example. Assume it takes 15 minutes to cook a steak in a broiler. If you put 2 steaks in the broiler, it still takes 15 minutes to cook them, not 30. If all other things are equal, cooking time stays the same when recipe is converted. Problem arises, however, because all other things are not always equal. For example, a large pot of liquid takes longer to bring to a boil than a small pot. Therefore, the total cooking time is longer. On the other hand, a big kettle of vegetable soup you are making ahead of tomorrow's lunch takes longer to cool than a small pot. Meanwhile, the vegetables continue to cook in the retained heat during the cooling. In order to avoid overcooking, you may need to undercook the large batch slightly. In cases where the cooking time must be increased, you might find you must increase the amount of herbs and spices. This is because the flavors are volatile, and more flavor is lost because of the increased cooking time. Changing recipe sizes can affect not only cooking times but also mixing times. The best way to avoid this problem is to rely not on printed cooking and mixing times, but on your own judgment and skills to tell you what products are properly cooked or properly blended. 这个地方我就说一下，就是说，你做的东西肯定是你负责，你不要说谁 chef 让我怎么做，我怎么做，或者说你从哪个书上看是怎么做，或者你从哪个 video 上 YouTuber 上看这个东西怎么做，最后做出来就是你来负责，就很简单。这个东西是谁做的，就是谁负责，无论是谁告诉他怎么做或者怎么样。第二就是说，如果你是厨房的 chef 的话，那无论厨房出什么事都应该是你负责。你 chef 他不应该把你的责任推卸到那个 cook 的身上去。但是呢，你要尽量呢去学会去监督管理还有激励你的 cook， 对吧？这是我个人的意见。Recipe problems. Many recipes have flaws either in the quantities or types of ingredients or in the cooking procedures. When the item is made in small quantity, these flaws may not be noticeable, or the cook may almost unconsciously or automatically make judgments during production. When the recipe is multiplied, however, the flaws may suddenly become apparent and the product quality lower. The only solution here is to carefully test recipes and to have a good understanding of basic cooking principles. Food cost calculation， 这个就是这个下一部分了。Food cost calculation. Food service operations are business. This means someone in the operation must worry about budgets, cost, accounting, bills, profits, everything. Usually this is a job of the manager while the cook takes care of food production. Cooks have a great deal of responsibility for food cost control. However, they must always be conscious of accurate measurement, portion control, and careful processing, cooking, and handling of foods to avoid excess trimming loss, shrinkage, and waste. The manager, on the other hand, is concentrated with determining budgets, calculating profits and expenses, and so on. We cannot deal with this subject here, as this is a book about food preparation, but you may encounter them later in your studies or in your career. Regardless, every cook should understand 3 areas of cost accounting: doing yield analysis, calculating raw food costs or portion cost, and using food cost percentages. Food cost percentages. An individual operation food cost percentage is usually determined by the budget. The chef is interested in this figure because it tells him or her whether the menu prices and the costs for each time are in line. 看啊 ，chef 是对这个非常的感兴趣，而且他必须有一个基本的一个数，他要知道20%、20%、30%、35%、50%，对吧？The food cost percentage of a menu item equals the raw food cost or the portion cost divided by the menu price. You can use the figures in 2 ways. If you know the menu price and want to see what your food cost should be in order to be within the budget, multiply the menu price by the percentage. Number 2, if you know the food cost and want to determine what the menu price should be at a particular percentage, divide the cost by the percentage. Gross profit and net profit. 这是一个额外的知识点。When you are working with cost figures, it is important to understand the difference between gross profit and net profit. Gross profit for operation can be defined as 100% of sales minus food cost. Thus, if you have a food cost of 30%, Your gross profit is 70% of sales. Net profit can be defined as gross profit minus overhead. Overhead 是一个新词啊，这个我们到时候总结的时候都会记下来啊。这是一个专用词。Overhead include labor costs, utility costs, real estate cost, interest on loans, and every other expense necessary to running the business. In our example, if you have a gross profit of 70% and overhead cost of 60% of sales, your net profit only 10%. Yield cost analysis. In order to calculate portion cost of recipes, you must first determine the cost of your ingredients. For many ingredients, this is relatively easy. You just look at your invoice or at price lists from your purveyors, 就是供应商的意思。Many recipes, however, specify trimmed weight rather than the weight you actually pay for. For example, a stew might call for a 2-pound sliced onion. Let's say you paid 24 cents a pound for onions, and to get 2-pound sliced onion, you need 2¼ pounds untrimmed onions. In order to calculate the cost of the recipe correctly, you must figure out what you actually paid for the onions. In this case, the true cost is 54 cents. The following are two frequent use abbreviation you must understand. 这里说啊 ，you must understand 两个这个常见的一个缩写啊。AP stands for as purchased. This means the untrimmed quantity. In the same form in which it is purchased, this is the amount you pay for. EP stands for edible portions. This means the raw and cooked quantity after all trimming is done. This is the quantity you actually cook. 这是说你在所有的 trimming 就是皮啊、不要的东西啊、那些东西扔的东西去掉之后叫 EP。还有一个缩写就是你一会儿我这里面应该也会讲的，就是你实际上你的那个重量，比如说这个很明显有一个东西就是说水分，这很难计算在这里，因为比如一块牛肉，我们想知道做出来是多大，对吗？然后的话它会失去很多水分，然后我们再设想那个生的那个情况是多大，然后再想加上 trimming 之后，就是加上它那些肥肉啊或者是筋膜啊，加上那些东西之后你需要多大，这是我们要知道的。In the case of fruit and vegetables, the best way to determine AP quantities for use in costing recipe is to make a note of them when you are preparing the item. Tables of vegetables and fruit trimmings used in Chapter 10 and 21 will also help you. The next section explains how to use these numbers. Trimming loss. Calculating yields and amounts needed. The description of vegetables and fruits in Chapter 10 and 21 include a number of called percentage yield. The percentage yield of vegetable or fruit indicates average how much of the AP weight is left after pre-prep to produce the ready-to-cook item or EP weight. You can use these figures to perform two basic calculations. 就之后我们在第10章21上，它会告诉你一个百分比的 yield， 然后呢，你知道这个之后，你就可以算这个 AP 和 EP。当然这些都是一个经验值啊，就是说你如果处理好的话，那你可能这个百分比的话能省多省一点，对吧？处理不好呢就浪费多一点，就很简单。所以说如果你是在一个酒店的工作，比如说我工作酒店有100个人，100个厨师，那如果这个100个厨师水平都很高，大家都能把这个trimmings 啊或者是这些不要使的这个东西做到最少，那我们能用的东西就很多，对吗？那成本就能控制得很好。如果这100个人都是这2把刀，对吗？比如切的技术啊，做的技术啊，经常做就做坏啊，所以重新做啊，那你这个成本就高了很多了，对吧？所以说为什么现在基本上去酒店去工作啊，人都需要有一个 cooking test， 就是说人看一下基本上你能 达到一个基本要求才会雇佣你。但是呢，与之相反的，去餐厅的话，一般不需要 test， 它需要你这个实习，或者叫staging， 就是这个，就是说他用你这个免费劳动力，然后你工作几天，看你能不能干这些最基本的活儿。如果能干的话，你就可以留下来了；如果不能干呢，对他们来说没有损失，因为你是免费的嘛。你这几天最多多少少肯定还会创造一些价值，而他们又不用付你钱嘛。这就是这个餐饮业的一个现状啊。国内我不知道，中国我不知道，法国呀，还有这个美国、加拿大都是这样，他们都有这个 staging 的时间。而且有一次我去多伦多一个最好顶级的最好的一个餐厅去面试，他说那个现在我们只招那个 full time 的员工，所以我们不能要你，但是呢，你可以过来 staging， 随时过来实习或者随时过来免费给我们干活，我们都欢迎。当然了，我最后没去啊，因为我当时已经有一些工作经验了，我知道这些就是忽悠人的吧，说白了。让我们看它这两个最基础的 calculation 啊。First, calculating yield. Second is calculating amount needed. 这个地方我同样不想去算了，大家心里有个数就行了。In the case of ingredients such as meat and fish, figuring the cost can be a little more complicated if you buy pre-cut portion-controlled steaks or fish fillets and use them just as you receive them. Your AP and EP costs are the same, but if you buy whole loins of beef or whole fish and cut them yourself, you have to do a yield cost analysis in order to determine your actual costs. The examples discussed in the remainder of this chapter use US measures. For metric examples, see Appendix 4. Raw yield test. Suppose you work in a restaurant that serves veal scallopine. The restaurant buys whole legs of veal. It is your job to down out the veal, trim off all fat and connective tissue, separate the muscles at the seams, and cut the large pieces into a scallopine. 这个词我不知道啊，这个我们之后查一下。A typical whole leg of veal might weigh 30 pounds and cost 5 pre-pound for a total cost of $1.50. After finishing your trimming and cutting, you find you have 18 pounds of veal scallopine. How do you figure the cost per pound of this meat? The simplest example would be if you threw away all the trimmings, bones, and scrap meat, then you will know your 18 pounds of veal costs you $1.50. Dividing $1.50 by 18 pounds give you a cost per pound of 8.33 cents. But in your restaurant, you don't throw away the trimmings. You make stock with the bones, grind up the small trimmings for meatballs, use the larger trimmings for veal stew, and sell the fat to the fat collector who picks up all your waste fat once a week. Now you must do a yield test to figure your cost. Show a typical form you might use for yield test. For simplification, the blanks in the form are of two types. The dotted lines are to be filled in by reading your invoices and by taking the weights from your actual yield test. The solid lines are to be filled in by doing calculations. Table 4.5 Raw Yield Test Form. 它里面给了一个 test form， 就是说你这个怎么算这 yield 的。所以我们看一个有 item, purveyor, AP, test number, price per pound, bound price, total cost, item weight, value, total. OK. Table 4.6 completed raw yield test form. The executive chef in this restaurant fills out the first two lines based on the invoice, gives you the form, and requests you to do the test. You fill out the rest of the form beginning with blank 1 on the third line. You process as follows. With the whole legs of wheel and enter the weight in blank, copy the price per pound and total cost from blank 2 to blank 2 and 3. Break down the wheel into this component parts and component part and record the weight of the trim on waste. Starting blank 4, in this case, there are only 6 items: 5 bones, small meat scraps from grinding, meat for stewing, unusable waste, and cutting loss. Record the weight of the finished scalloping in blank 13. What is cutting loss? 这也是一个概念，我们要记得。It's not something you can actually weigh. However, there's always some loss of weight due to particles of meat and fat sticking to the cutting board, to drying, and to other factors. So when you add up all your weights, you find the total lies than 30 pounds. To determine cutting loss, add up blank 4 through 8 and blank 13. Subtract this total from line 1. Then 3 into the values per pound of the trim, salvage, and waste on line 4 through 10. In this case, these numbers are given to you by the executive chef for the invoices. Number 4, calculate the total value of each item on line 4. Add weight in line 4 through 10 and enter the total blank. 这个我就不想读了，这个我觉得大家都会做，好吗？这个地方我实在是不想读了。The first half of the 这是我们下一个 form 啊，我们从这儿开始读吧，从这儿开始读。You might be tempted to simply weigh the whole roast after cooking and trimming. Remember though that there will be some waste, crumbs on the slicer or cutting board, spillage of juices, and so on. It is more accurate to record the weight you actually sell. 这个地方其实没人做啊。因为在控制成本的时候，你要算的是大数。当然，你如果能做到这么细，说明你很先进，对吗？但是我没看到有人会这么做。If this had been a bone-in roast, you would have another reason to carve the meat before weighing, because you could not include the weight of bones in your served figure. The remaining blanks on the form are determined by doing the calculation just as you would do the calculation for the raw yeast test. Portion cost, or raw food cost, is the total cost of all the ingredients in a recipe divided by a number of portions served. 这个地方这个概念很简单，就是说你每卖一盘或者一份饭，这个值多少钱，这个成本多少钱，然后呢，你今天卖了多少，一乘，就是你实际卖出的这个总的这个东西的总的价格，然后比上你之前的东西是一个总的比例。Here we cast out a sample recipe to show you how the procedure works. First, note the following points, and keep them in mind when you are calculating portion costs. Many errors in costing are caused by forgetting one of these points. 这个地方我们认真读一下。Costs must be based on AP amounts, even though recipes often give EP quantities. These terms are explained in the preceding sections. Number 2, include everything. That means the lemon wedges and parsley garnish for the fish fillet, the cream and the sugar that go with the coffee, and the oil that used for pan frying the eggplant. These are sometimes called hidden costs. 这个地方我们知道这些概念肯定会考的啊，像这个 AP、EP、hidden costs。我再举个简单例子，比如说我最近准备去露营。那露营的话，我们就要想我们做什么饭吃，对吧？做什么饭吃的话，那你就去买呗，比如说买肉、买菜，但是你别忘了，千万别忘了带盐、油、胡椒，不要忘带你的炉子气儿，还有你打火机，对吧？你像这些油啊、这些盐啊，还有你的火柴，这些都很有可能成为你的 hidden costs。包括你如果开车去露营的话，你那个车的油钱， 也要算在你的成本里。甚至的话，如果你去很远的地方露营，比如说我露营1个月，对吗？那你的车的损耗呢，对吧？这些都要算，这些都可以叫做 hidden costs。Seasonings and spices are typical examples of hidden costs that are difficult to calculate. Some operations add up the cost of all seasonings used in a year and divide that by the total food cost to get a percentage. Other hidden costs can be calculated in the same way. For example, you could figure out your cost percentage for frying fat and add percentage to all deep fried foods. Some restaurants take an arbitrary figure for all hidden costs, usually 8 to 12%, and add this to all menu items. 这段我突然想到一个，就是说，如果在加拿大或者在美国或者在欧洲吧，经常会吃有烤箱嘛，经常有烤箱，所以很多人都会吃这个培根。这培根烤起来，反正我个人觉得非常非常好吃。但是呢，你在家里要做培根的话，一定要记得把这个培根这个猪油留下来，可以炒菜用，味道非常的好。但是在酒店啊或者是餐厅啊，很少有人会保留这个猪油。而你要买猪油呢，这猪油叫 lard， 那你就要花钱了，对吗？但是如果你像酒店的话，每天都会烤很多的 bacon， 但是谁会把这个猪油保留下来呢？没有人，对吗？但是我在家的话，我就会保留下来，好吃而且很纯。我在做这个煮排骨啊之类的话，也会有一层油浮在上面，但那个油的话就不是很纯。如果你用那个油做炒菜的话，经常会有一些那个油和水的混合物加热之后会溅出来，会崩在你身上，会很疼。但是如果你用 bacon 的这个猪油烤出来的猪油去炒菜，非常的合适，它不会崩。这我很满意啊，这个我觉得，如果我们很难买到猪油嘛，所以的话，你可以做培根的时候，记得把那个热油放在一个玻璃或者铁的容器里，趁热倒进去，凉了就倒不出去了，对吧？然后我们看第3点。Third, record the number of portions actually served, not just the number the recipe is intended to serve. If the roster shrank more than you expected during the cooking, or if you dropped pieces of cake on the floor, those costs still have to be covered. 这个也说了，就是说你做饭的时候做错了扔了，对吧？或者说有苹果掉地上了，或者说那个server 在运菜的时候掀了，对吧？掀了一个盘子，对吗？这些你都得算上你的 cost。但是这个地方我们看它算的很细很细。OK， 这都是理论上的。实际工作中呢，我觉得 chef 或者 executive chef 不会这样算，因为我不是 executive chef， 所以我不知道。但是我猜他没有时间或者没有必要算这么细。那究竟你怎么控制呢？就是说，你这个 chef 应该花时间去你这个工作真正的生产线上，对吧？去走 hot line cold line， 你看大家是不是第一是不是 hour prep 了，对吧？比如说你今天就是30个客人，你准备300个人的饭，那肯定是 hour prep 了吧？第一。第二呢，就是说你看有没有一些那个东西可以省下来。我刚刚说的猪油啊，这些东西可以省下来的。我讲一个省的例子，就是说我有一个 sous chef， 他在 banquet 的 sous chef， 他呢，因为 banquet 经常会有很大的活动嘛，比如说人家这种自助餐，或者是这种小的这种餐前的这种叫小的点心之类的东西吧，他就会比实际上应该给客户的这个数量，他会减一些，比如减10%或减20%。为什么呢？因为大家吃不了那么多。第二呢，就是你减的话，你别人也看不出来。我的意思就是说，他吃不了那么多东西，你做了也是浪费，对吗？那你不如不给他做那么多，少做一点，减少浪费。虽然说这样对那个客人很不公平吧，对吧？因为他交了钱了。但是呢，我觉得我也能理解，我不说我鼓励这种做法，但是我可以理解这种做法。与其你浪费，你为什么不省一点呢？如果客人后来说，你这给的不够，那我再给你一点，对吗？ 这个都是可以调整的。但这样的话，如果你真的每次都这么做了，那你这个 cost control， 你这个 food cost 会降了很多。另外，这个 cost 还有一个点啊，就是说我们刚才提到这个 net cost 和这个 gross cost。你要算 net cost 的时候，是真正我们赚到手里的钱，对吗？其中有一部分你要减掉，就是这个 labor cost。这个酒店有的时候算账它不太会算，他有的时候他可能会多用一个人或多用2个人，然后呢，他只是为了保证那个，但是他会为了保证节约这个 food cost， 但你这人多了呀，对吗？你 labor cost 也没有算，所以它这个整体在核算成本上还是有一些那个问题的。这个地方我们就讲了，最后我们还再看最后一个，我们把这个讲完了。这个相当于这一章的总结 ，controlling food cost。这个只有2-3页，因为我现在读的已经有点累了，所以我们快一点把这边过一遍。这里边应该会有很重要的一些概念我们要理解。然后前面几部分都是关于数学计算，这个地方我觉得对大家来说不是难点。你真正算的时候，真正管理的时候用到的时候，你去算就可以了。Calculating food cost is a critical part of the business of selling and serving food. The preceding section explains the basic mathematics of determining these costs, but cost control is much more than calculating costs based on written recipes. Cost control begins with menu planning and encompasses every phase of the operation, from purchasing to service. Menu planning: a well-planned menu takes care to utilize ingredients efficiently and in a way that avoids waste. When writing a menu, considering the following guidelines for a total utilization of foods. 1. Use all edible trim. Unless you use only portion-controlled meat, poultry and fish, and only frozen and canned vegetables, you will have edible trim. You can either throw it away and call it a loss, or you can use it and make money on it. Plan recipes that utilize these trimmings and put them on the menu. For example, use small meat scraps for soup, chopped meat, pate, creamy dishes, croquettes. Use large meat trimmings for soup, stew, braised items. Use bones for stock, soups. Use vegetable trimming for puree, soup, stew, stocks, filling for omelette and crepes. Use day-old breads for stuffing, breading, French toast, croton, meat extender. Don't add item to the menu unless you can use the trimmings. This is really the same as the preceding item, looking from the opposite angle. In other words, don't put Reso potato in your menu unless you also plan to serve an item that uses the trimmings, such as whipped potato or croquettes. 这两个是这个是一个土豆做法，有可能是煎的。煎的话，它就要把那个2头削平，那样就会有一个很大的那个 trimming。所以说，它用这个地方就是用土豆泥就可以去减掉这个浪费。这个词我也忘了，这个我们之后查。Plan production to avoid leftover. The best way to use leftover is not to create them in the first place. Handling food twice, once as a fresh item and once as a leftover, is more expensive and time-consuming than handling it once, and it almost always results in a loss of quality. Limited menus, that is, with fewer selections, decrease the likelihood of leftovers. Number 4. Plan ahead for use of leftover. Carefully planning of production can keep leftovers to a minimum, but some leftovers are almost inevitable, and it's better for you costs to use them than to throw them out. Whenever you put an item on the menu that could become leftover, you should have a recipe ready that you will use it. This is better than being surprised when leftover you don't know what to do with. For example, if you serve roast chicken for dinner one day, you may plan on chicken salad for a luncheon special the next day. Remember to handle a leftover accordingly to proper sanitary procedures. Avoid the minimum use perishable ingredients. Minimum use ingredients, 这个有可能会考 minimum use ingredients. those are used in one or two items on your menu. For example, an operation might serve chicken breast topped with sauteed mushroom, but not use mushroom in any other item. When the ingredient is perishable, the result is a high percentage of spoilage or waste. The situation can be remedied in any of three ways. Change the recipe to eliminate the minimum usage ingredients. Eliminate the item from the menu. Add other items to the menu using the ingredient. Be careful not to unbalance the menu. However, by using an ingredient in too many dishes, try to avoid both extremes. Purchasing, managing inventory. Part stock is the inventory of goods that an operation must have on hand to continue operating between deliveries. This is important to maintain a proper part stock to avoid running out of essential items. However, it is costly to maintain a larger inventory than necessary. It is partly because some of your operating cash is tied up in unused inventory. Second, excessive inventory of perishable items can lead to spoilage and thus to loss. Accurate forecasting of future business based on careful study of past business is key to managing inventory and establishing part stock. Carefully write specifications for each item purchased so the item is described accurately. Compare price and quality offered by several vendors in order to get the best quality for the best price. Order from up-to-date cost and price lists. Receiving. Careful attention to receiving procedure. Schedule recipes so an employee can devote full attention to checking the shipment without being rushed. Try to scheduling deliveries so they don't arrive at the same time. If the employee receiving the goods has kitchen duties as well, schedule deliveries during off hours so he or she has adequate time to check the shipments. Check the delivery immediately while the driver is there. Don't allow the driver to unload the shipment and depart. Leaving the order unloading dock, compare the delivery invoice to others' forms to make sure the right goods are delivered. Compare the delivery invoice to the actual goods received to make sure you have received everything you are paying for. Keep a scale at the receiving entrance so items can be checked for proper weight. Check the delivery for quality, check the temperature, test temperature, check all probable freshness, check all containers. Immediately transfer all goods to proper storage. Storing. Proper storage is essential to avoid spoilage and loss of food items. The basic principle of storing dry food, refrigerated foods, frozen food are detailed in Chapter 2. In addition, storage of specific category of foods, especially meats, poultry, seafood, produce, and dairy products is included in the discussion of each. Consult the index of further reference, measuring, and other cooking procedure. As discussed earlier in this chapter, the concept of measurement applies to two principal areas: measurement of ingredients in recipe preparation and the measurement of portions to be served, also known as portion control. The fundamentals of both types of measurement are explained earlier in this chapter and need not be repeated here. Measurement is an indispensable part of good kitchen procedures. Think of measurement as part of your basic cooking procedures, not as something separate. All cooking procedures, including mirroring, combine to help control food costs because proper cooking procedures help avoid waste due to improperly prepared foods. For example, lack of attention at the grill station often results in meat returned by the customer for being overcooked. Having to discard and replace badly cooked foods greatly increase food costs. Serving. Although cook's attention to measurement and portion control goes for nothing if a server drops a plate on the way to the dining room. A well-trained serving staff is an important part of controlling food costs. Serving staff must be trained in serving techniques and in portion control for those items, such as desserts or salads. They are responsible for plating. Servers must understand the menu well so they can explain each item to customers and avoiding returned dishes. The chef often may wish to sell more of some items than others as part of inventory and cost control. So, serving staff must also be trained to be effective but pleasant salespeople. The demands made on the service personnel can best be met when the chefs and the service manager cooperate in their training. 这个整体的文章我们读完了，我们回忆一下它的 key points. What is the procedure for converting a recipe to a different yield? Why do recipes sometimes not give the same result when converted to a different quantity? What kinds of adjustments might you have to make avoid this problem? What are AEP quantities and EEP quantities? Explain how to perform yield calculations when you know the AEP quantities and the percentage yield. What is the procedure for calculating food costs? What are some good ways to keep food costs as low as possible? 这一回我们看最后啊，所有的 keep food costs 都是 keep it as low as possible. 这一章我们就读完了，第4章我们读完了。我们复习一下这个他列出来的 terms 啊。这章比较多啊 ，static manual, cycle manual, a la carte 这些都得知道的 ，table, dehors, prefix, tasting manual, course, fresh, imported, homemade, organic recipe, standard recipe。这里说一下，这几个概念，像这个 manual 概念，因为这个语言原因，我总是记不住，但是大家还是得记啊。如果记不住怎么样，就天天记，像我也只能天天记。剩下这些，如果你会英文的话，你基本上好理解了啊。法语的这些还是不太好记。Portion control metric system, gram, liter, meter, degree Celsius, kilo, deci, milli, yield, conversion factor, food cost percentage, yield test, cutting loss, served, portion cost, hidden cost, minimum use ingredients, par stock。看 par stock 这是一个我之前不太注意的一个概念。这个之后我们总结之后，我们都要再记一遍啊。下一章是 nutrition， 在这章之前，我觉得应该还是加一个复习吧。3章和4章之后我们复习一下，然后我把这些都总结完了，我们做一章复习，好吗？谢谢大家，一定要经常去复习。如果有问题的话，给我留言，给我关注，谢谢大家。今天就到这儿了。